I came to help your kingdom.
Then stay with me. Stay with me.
Somewhere out in deep space, there is an empire so powerful it makes every human nation look small. This empire rules over thousands of worlds. Its soldiers never lose. Its scientists can heal almost anything. But one thing broke them. One little girl could not walk. She was the alien queen's only daughter, born into pure power, born into pure luxury. And yet, since the day she was born, her legs never worked. Not once. Not ever. The best alien doctors in the galaxy tried. They failed. The strongest alien healers tried next. They failed too. For years, the royal family hid this secret from the public. They were afraid. If the galaxy knew their princess could not walk, enemies might attack. Rivals might laugh. So they buried the truth behind palace walls. But everything changed the day a simple human janitor walked into that palace. He carried no weapons. He had no magic. He was not even important. He mopped floors for a living. But the truth behind what happened next will shock you. Because in the next few minutes, you will learn 3 things nobody expected. You will learn why the most advanced empire in the galaxy could not fix one little girl. You will learn what this human man secretly carried with him every single day. And you will learn the real reason the princess finally stood on her own 2 feet. Let me show you exactly how this happened. Far beyond the edges of human space, there was an empire called the Velmara Dominion. It stretched across thousands of stars. It had more soldiers than Earth had people. Its cities floated above oceans of liquid glass. Its ships could cross a galaxy in days, not years. The Velmara people were tall, pale blue, and beautiful in a strange, glowing way. Their eyes shined like ice under moonlight. Their hair moved slightly even without wind. To humans, they looked almost like elves from an old fairy tale. But they were real, and they were powerful. At the very top of this empire sat Queen Serath. She ruled with calm strength. She never raised her voice. She never needed to. One quiet word from her could move 1,000 ships. But behind her throne, in her private chambers, there was a secret pain that no soldier or scientist could fix. Her daughter, Princess Elowen, could not walk. From the day she was born, Elowen's legs did not respond. Her mind was sharp. Her voice was gentle. Her heart was kind. But her legs simply would not move the way they should. It was as if her body had been built with a piece missing. At first, the queen was not worried. She believed her people's medicine could fix anything. She called the greatest doctors from every planet in the empire. They came from fire worlds and ice worlds and worlds made of pure crystal. Each one examined the young princess with strange glowing tools. Each one shook their head in the end. Her body is perfect, one doctor said. Everything looks correct. But something invisible is blocking the signal between her mind and her legs. We cannot find it. We cannot fix it. Year after year, new doctors came. Year after year, they all failed. Some tried strange machines that buzzed and glowed. Some tried ancient healing songs passed down for 1,000 years. Nothing worked. The princess remained in her chair, unable to stand, unable to walk, unable to run like other children her age. The queen grew desperate, but she never let it show in public. To the rest of the galaxy, the royal family looked perfect. Strong, untouchable. If enemies of the empire discovered the princess could not walk, they might see it as weakness. So the truth was hidden. Only a small circle of trusted guards and workers knew. Princess Elowen grew up mostly inside the palace walls. She read books about faraway worlds. She watched ships launch from her window and dreamed of standing on the deck of one someday. She smiled at the guards who passed her chair each morning. But deep inside, she felt alone. She felt like a secret her own mother was ashamed to share. Then, one ordinary day, everything began to change. The palace needed new workers. Not soldiers, not scientists, just workers to clean the massive marble halls, fix small machines, and keep the palace running smoothly. It was part of a special program the Queen had quietly approved years earlier. A program that allowed a small number of humans to work inside Velmara territory, as a gesture of peace between Earth and the Dominion. Most Velmara nobles looked down on this idea. Humans were seen as simple, weak, not very advanced compared to Velmara technology. Many nobles laughed at the thought of humans working inside the sacred palace. But the Queen allowed it anyway. She believed peace started with small steps. Among the new workers sent from Earth was a quiet young man named Daniel Carter. He was not a scientist. He was not a soldier. He was simply a janitor from a small town in the United States. He had answered a strange government notice, asking for workers willing to travel far from home for a special assignment. He didn't fully understand where he was going. He just knew it paid well, and his family needed the money. When Daniel first arrived at the Velmara Palace, he felt tiny. The ceilings stretched higher than any building he had ever seen. The floors shined like glass. Guards twice his height stood silently at every door. He gripped his mop tightly and tried not to look too nervous. He was given simple tasks. Clean the long marble hallways. Fix small broken machines in the lower levels. Stay quiet. Stay out of the way. For weeks, he followed those rules perfectly. He barely spoke to anyone. He kept his head down and did his work. But one afternoon, while cleaning a quiet hallway near the private royal wing, Daniel heard something unusual. A soft voice, talking gently, almost singing. He paused his mop and listened. It was coming from behind a large golden door. He knew he wasn't supposed to be near the royal wing. He knew the rules clearly stated humans should stay away from that area. But something about the voice made him stop. It sounded sad. Lonely, like someone talking to themselves just to fill the silence. Without thinking too much, Daniel gently pushed the door open just a crack. And there, sitting alone by a tall window, was Princess Elowen. Daniel froze the moment he saw her. He knew immediately who she was. Her image was on banners across the palace. Her face was carved into golden statues in the entrance hall. But nothing prepared him for seeing her sitting so alone, staring quietly out the window with a small, sad smile. She turned and noticed him instantly. Her eyes widened in surprise. "You shouldn't be here," she said softly, though her voice held no anger, just quiet caution. Daniel quickly bowed his head. "I'm sorry, Your Highness. I heard a voice and I didn't mean to intrude." Elowen studied him for a moment. Most palace workers avoided eye contact with her. Most treated her like a fragile piece of glass. But this human simply looked curious. Not afraid. Not pitying. Just curious. "You're one of the new humans," she said. "The janitor program." "Yes, ma'am. Daniel Carter." She almost smiled at that. "Daniel Carter," she repeated slowly, testing the sound of his simple Earth name. "That's very plain." Daniel chuckled nervously. "Most Earth names are, I guess." For a moment, silence sat between them. Then Elowen glanced down at her chair, the same chair she had used her entire life, and something in her expression shifted. Sadness, frustration, the kind of tired feeling that comes from fighting the same battle every single day. Daniel noticed. He didn't know much about royal customs, but he understood pain when he saw it. "May I ask what's wrong?" he said carefully. Elowen hesitated. She wasn't used to anyone asking her that so directly. Most people in the palace treated her condition like something to whisper about, never something to simply ask. My legs, she finally said. They've never worked. Not since I was born. Every doctor in this empire has tried to fix me. None of them can. Daniel nodded slowly, taking this inches. I'm sorry, he said honestly. That sounds really hard. Something about his simple words felt different to Eloin. Not pity. Not fear. Just understanding. From that day forward, Daniel found small reasons to pass by that hallway during his cleaning shifts. At first, it was just a quick hello through the door. Then it became short conversations. Eloin would ask him questions about Earth, what oceans looked like, what music humans listened to, what it felt like to walk barefoot on grass. Daniel would ask her about the stars, about the many worlds within the Velmara Dominion, about what it was like growing up as a princess who could never leave her chair. Their conversations became the highlight of both their days. One afternoon, weeks into this quiet friendship, Daniel arrived at his usual cleaning shift, carrying something small in his jacket pocket. It was an old device his grandfather had given him years ago, before passing away, a small, outdated medical unit designed for physical therapy on Earth. It wasn't advanced. It wasn't magical. It was simple human technology, built to help stroke patients slowly regain movement in weak limbs through gentle electrical signals and repeated motion training. Daniel wasn't a doctor. He barely understood half of what the device's manual explained. But he remembered his grandfather using it after an accident years ago, slowly regaining strength in his leg through weeks of patient, repetitive therapy. He didn't expect it to work on an alien princess. He simply thought maybe it was worth mentioning. I have this old device from Earth, he told Eloin one afternoon. It's not fancy. It's not alien science. It's just a simple therapy machine humans use to help nerves and muscles relearn how to move. I don't know if it would even work on you, but I thought maybe it's worth trying. If you want. Eloin looked at the small, worn device in his hands. Compared to the massive, glowing machines the Velmara doctors had used on her for years, it looked laughably simple, almost like a toy. You want to fix me with that? She asked, half amused, half curious. Daniel shrugged. I'm not saying it'll fix anything. I'm just saying every doctor here has used big, advanced alien tech, and none of it worked. Maybe the problem isn't that you need something more advanced. Maybe you need something completely different. Eloin sat quietly for a long moment, staring at the strange little device. Everything about her upbringing told her this was foolish. Human medicine was primitive compared to Velmara science. Every advisor, every doctor, every noble in the palace would laugh at the idea. But she was tired of being laughed at by fancy machines that promised everything and delivered nothing. All right, she said finally, quiet determination in her voice. Let's try. They started slowly, carefully, and completely in secret. Eloin knew if the palace doctors discovered what she was doing, they would stop it immediately. Not out of cruelty, but out of pride. The idea that simple human technology might succeed where Velmara science had failed for years would be deeply embarrassing to the Empire's most respected healers. So every afternoon, behind closed doors, Daniel guided Eloin through the basic therapy exercises the old device was designed for. It sent gentle electrical pulses to encourage her leg muscles to respond. It wasn't magic. It wasn't instant. For the first 2 weeks, nothing seemed to happen at all. Eloin grew frustrated. Maybe this really is foolish, she said one evening, staring at her still lifeless legs. Daniel shook his head firmly. My grandfather's therapy took months, not days. This isn't about magic. It's about patience. Small steps, every single day, add up over time. Eloin wasn't used to patience. In the Velmara Dominion, results came instantly through advanced technology. But something about Daniel's calm confidence made her want to keep trying. Week by week, they continued. Daniel adjusted the settings, carefully based on his grandfather's old instructions. Elowen practiced small movements, flexing her toes, tensing her calf muscles, focusing her mind on sending signals down to her legs, even when nothing happened in response. Then, on a quiet Tuesday afternoon in the 5th week, something small happened. Elowen's toe moved. Just slightly. Just a tiny twitch. But it moved. Both of them stared at her foot in stunned silence. "Did you see that?" Elowen whispered, her voice trembling with disbelief. Daniel nodded slowly, a huge smile spreading across his face. "I saw it." For the first time in her entire life, Princess Elowen had made her own leg respond to her command. It wasn't walking. It wasn't even close to walking. But it was something. It was proof that her body could still learn. From that day forward, their secret sessions became filled with quiet hope. Progress remained slow. Some days brought small victories, a flexed ankle, a slight muscle twitch. Other days brought frustrating silence, no matter how hard Elowen focused. But Daniel never let her give up. "Healing isn't a straight line," he told her during one difficult session. "Sometimes you take 2 steps forward and 1 step back. That doesn't mean you're failing. That just means you're human." Elowen smiled softly at that. "I'm not human," she reminded him. Daniel grinned back. "Close enough." Weeks turned into months. Slowly, painfully, but steadily, Elowen's legs began responding more consistently. She could flex both feet now. She could tense her leg muscles on command. The nerve signals that had been silent her entire life were slowly waking up, thanks to simple, patient, repetitive human therapy. But keeping this secret became harder every week. The palace doctors noticed subtle changes during routine checkups, slightly improved muscle tone, small nerve responses that hadn't existed before. They grew suspicious, though they couldn't explain what was causing it. Queen Serath began asking quiet questions of her own. She noticed her daughter seemed different lately. More hopeful, more energetic. She wondered what had changed. Then, one evening, everything came dangerously close to being discovered. Queen Serath decided to visit her daughter unannounced, something she rarely did given her busy schedule ruling an empire. She walked quietly toward Elowen's private chambers, planning to simply check in on her only child. As she approached the door, she heard something unusual: quiet laughter, followed by an unfamiliar voice speaking gently. A human voice. Concerned, the queen pushed the door open. Inside, she found her daughter sitting upright with unusual focus, her leg gently twitching in response to a small, strange device attached near her ankle. Standing beside her, guiding the session carefully, was a young human janitor. Daniel froze immediately, terrified he had made a terrible mistake. Interacting privately with the princess was already against palace rules. Attempting unauthorized medical treatment on royal family members without permission could be considered a serious offense, possibly resulting in his immediate removal from the program or worse. "Mother, please," Elowen said quickly, panic in her voice. "Let me explain." Queen Serath stood silently for a long moment, studying the scene before her. Her daughter's leg, moving on command for the first time in her life. A simple human, kneeling beside her, holding an old, unimpressive-looking device. "Explain," the queen said calmly, though her tone carried authority that filled the room. Elowen quickly told her mother everything: the secret sessions, the simple Earth technology, the slow but steady progress they had made together over the past several months. She showed her mother the small twitch in her toes, the slight tension she could now create in her calf muscles. The queen listened carefully, her expression unreadable. Finally, she turned to Daniel. "You did this?" she asked directly. Daniel swallowed nervously. "Not exactly, Your Majesty." I didn't do anything special. I just shared something simple from my world. Something my grandfather used years ago. The princess did the actual work. She just needed patience, not more advanced machines. The queen studied him carefully. For years, she had trusted only the most advanced doctors and scientists in her empire. She had believed complex, powerful technology was the only path to healing her daughter. And yet here, in front of her, was undeniable proof of progress achieved not through Velmara's greatest science, but through simple human patience and an outdated Earth device. Why would something so basic succeed where our greatest healers failed? The queen asked, more to herself than anyone else. Elowen answered instead. Because our doctors were searching for a big, complicated answer. They were looking for some hidden Velmara secret to unlock. But maybe the answer was always simple. Maybe my body just needed time, patience, and small steady steps. Not a miracle machine. The queen remained silent for a long moment, absorbing this thought. Then, slowly, she nodded. Continue the sessions, she finally said. But properly, with palace healers overseeing to ensure safety. And Daniel Carter, she turned to him directly. You will guide this personally, under royal protection. Daniel bowed deeply, relief flooding through him. Yes, Your Majesty. Thank you. From that day forward, the sessions continued openly, now supported by Velmara healers, who studied Daniel's simple methods carefully, gaining new understanding by combining the patience of human therapy with their own advanced knowledge. Together, humans and Velmara worked side by side for the first time within palace walls. Elowen's progress accelerated. Within a few more months, she could stand briefly on her own, gripping support bars for balance. Her legs, silent her entire life, were finally learning how to work. Word slowly spread throughout the palace, then throughout the capital city, then throughout the empire itself. The impossible was becoming possible. The princess who could never walk was finally standing. The day finally arrived. Word had spread across the entire Velmara dominion. Nobles from distant planets traveled for weeks just to witness this moment. Crowds gathered outside the grand palace steps, filling the massive courtyard below. Cameras from 100 different worlds pointed toward the palace balcony, ready to capture history. Inside, Princess Elowen stood quietly beside Daniel, gripping his arm gently for support one final time. Are you ready? Daniel asked softly. Elowen took a deep breath. Months of slow, patient progress had led to this single moment. Her legs, once completely silent, now trembled slightly with nervous energy rather than weakness. I've been ready my whole life, she whispered. Queen Sereth stood proudly nearby, watching her daughter with tears quietly forming in her eyes, an emotion rarely seen from the powerful, composed ruler of an entire empire. Slowly, carefully, Elowen released Daniel's arm. The courtyard fell completely silent. One leg moved forward. Then the other. For the very first time in her entire life, Princess Elowen walked completely on her own, without support, without assistance across the palace balcony in front of thousands of witnesses from across the galaxy. The crowd erupted into thunderous cheers. Nobles who had once doubted this moment would ever come wept openly. News broadcasts across 100 worlds captured the historic moment, instantly sharing it across the entire Velmara dominion and beyond. Nobody had believed this day would come. The greatest doctors in the galaxy had failed for years. Advanced Velmara technology had failed for years. And yet, here she was, walking proudly, all because of a simple human janitor who refused to give up, and a princess who refused to stop trying. Queen Sereth addressed the crowd that day, her voice carrying across the courtyard. For years, we believed only power and advanced science could solve our greatest problems, she said. But sometimes, the answer isn't found in strength or status. Sometimes, it's found in patience, kindness, and the willingness to try something simple, even when the world tells you it's not enough. She turned toward Daniel, standing quietly near the edge of the balcony. This human, whom many considered unimportant, gave my daughter something no advanced machine ever could hope: patience and belief. From that day forward, relations between Earth and the Velmara Dominion changed forever. What began as a small, quiet friendship between a lonely princess and a simple janitor became the foundation of a new era of cooperation between two very different worlds. Princess Aloan continued walking, running, and eventually even dancing things she had once believed impossible her entire life. And every single day, she remembered the simple human lesson that changed everything. Sometimes, healing doesn't come from the most powerful solution. Sometimes, it comes from the most patient one. Here's the twist most people miss in this story. The Velmara doctors weren't incompetent. Their science was genuinely advanced, beyond anything humans have built. Their failure wasn't a failure of intelligence, it was a failure of assumption. They believed problem this complex needed an equally complex solution. They never considered that patience, repetition, and simple human therapy might succeed where powerful machines could not. That's the real lesson buried inside this story. Sometimes, the most advanced civilizations overlook the simplest answers, because they're too focused on complexity to notice something small and quiet sitting right in front of them. Nobody believed a janitor with an old, outdated device could succeed where the Empire's greatest healers failed for years. But belief was never the missing ingredient. Patience was. This story reminds us that worth isn't measured by status, titles, or advanced technology. Sometimes, it's measured by simple kindness, quiet persistence, and the courage to try, even when everyone else has already given up. If this opened your eyes to how differently we sometimes measure strength and success. Let's recap what we uncovered today. A powerful alien empire, with all its advanced science, couldn't heal one little girl for years. A simple human janitor, with nothing but patience and an old device, succeeded where the greatest doctors failed. And in the end, the real lesson wasn't about technology at all, it was about patience, kindness, and never underestimating simple solutions. This is exactly the kind of story we love telling here on this channel, stories where humanity's greatest strength isn't shown through weapons or power, but through compassion, patience, and quiet determination that even the most advanced civilizations can't replicate. If this story gave you chills, made you smile, or reminded you why HFY stories hit differently, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. We post new HFY Sci-Fi stories regularly, and trust me, you don't want to miss the next one. Give this video a like if you believe patience can succeed where power fails. It helps this story reach more people who need to hear it. And I want to hear from you. Directly drop a comment below and tell me, what do you think is humanity's greatest hidden strength? Is it patience? Kindness? Stubbornness? Let's discuss it together in the comments. If you enjoyed this story, check out our next video, where we explore another incredible HFY tale of humanity proving itself in ways nobody expected. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.